Now I can say that I have a Guinness World Record.
What do you think the idea of the world record did for you in the days after your mum passed away?
That training definitely helped me during the period that my mum was very, very poorly. The second attempt wasn't framed around my mum. The first attempt was, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't all like, I'm such a nice guy, I'm going to do this absolutely horrendous journey just for St. Mary's. There's a lot of it that is, for me, a distraction. It's therapy. And then, as we know, hell ensued.
Hey everyone, just a quickie before we get into the conversation. The podcast is always going to be free, so I'm never going to ask you to pay for anything. But if you could do me the kindness of subscribing and maybe leaving a review, that would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you and enjoy the episode.
Andy, it's good to have you back on the podcast. For those that don't know, Andy recently broke the world record for the most weight lifted via kettlebell clean and press in 60 minutes. That's right.
Correct, yeah.
We're going to delve into the journey that you've been on and touch on some of the tactful stuff that some people listening might be able to use for themselves. But I wanted to start by asking, what was the very first time you remember thinking about or being aware of a world record and possibly even attempting one yourself?
Yeah. So used to watch Record Breakers as a kid. So that was pretty good with Chris Akabusi and all that kind of stuff. And you see some crazy things and, athletes doing things that, someone who, like me, at school, for example, wasn't particularly athletic, not fast, not particularly skillful at any particular sports or strong. So it was never, ever on my radar. And then I guess, we talked in the last podcast about my sort of journey to fitness and strength and things through Cumbria Strength and all that kind of stuff, the gym that we're both still affiliated with. And then I guess it was when I was at home. By this time I'd left CSC, because COVID had struck, and I finally made the jump to buy all my own gym equipment in my garage. And I just remember doing Turkish get-ups. I always enjoyed Turkish get-ups, and I know I mentioned it again in the last podcast about the fact that I did them and I attempted a world record unofficially. And broke the unofficial world record at the time. But the thought process was, if I remember, I think I was just in the gym and I'd done a heavy Turkish get-up, and then I think I just, in between sets, thought, I wonder what the world record is for the most weight lifted in, single rep or whatever it might be. Then you just type it in and a load of records come up with different types, the most weight lifted in 12 hours or the most weight lifted in 30 minutes or 1 hour or whatever for different things, And then I basically did a little calculation of what I'd need to break, what weight I should probably use. So had to go with that, worked out what cadence I'd need to go at.
Is this for the Turkish?
The Turkish get-up, sorry, not this one.
Yeah.
And I think I first time maybe managed 8 or 9 minutes at world record pace for whatever weight I ended up using. And I kind of just chucked it on the back of normal sessions and kind of made my way up to 20 minutes and things like that. And I guess when I had that one after I implemented some Wim Hof breathing, if you can remember that, I basically did practice Wim Hof for a period in my life, and I did some deep breathing before I had another go at just seeing how far I could get with that Turkish get-up thing. And I think I had 20 minutes was my PB, and I think I ended up getting 35 minutes or something. And I was like, wow, that was a big jump. And I haven't really trained really specifically for this. So then I started training specifically and just kind of realised that I was sort of heading towards it. But I guess in the last 8 years, if that's roughly when I started this sort of journey, I do train very intensely and do some, weird things that make it hard. like mentally tough things, and that was just one of them. And then when I unofficially broke that, someone else happened to put it way out of sight in the US around the time that I unofficially did it. So I thought, well, I'm definitely not going to be able to go after that. This guy was like massive, sort of fitness, like, influencer and all this kind of stuff.
Do you reckon it's natural?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know, but all I know is that there's probably a lot of strength and fitness records broken out there by people who aren't, because I wouldn't do steroids, for example, for something like this, because that'd mean nothing to me. Do you know what I mean? Personally. But there will be people who are like, all right, I want to break a world record. I'll just bang a load of steroids into me and see how far it takes me. It will happen, I mean, it actually happens in the Olympics, where you're really, really not supposed to do that stuff, So yeah, but so yeah, to answer your question, that was the first sort of time, just flirting with the idea, basically, and then it becoming a bit more of a reality.
Yeah, because if we think about a timeline here, we sat down, I think it'd be 2 years ago in May, and you filled us in on that whole situation. And you said, oh, there's this other one I'm thinking about doing.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So let's go back to then, May 2023. What's happened since then, and what happened after those, when you first started having those thoughts about that record?
Yeah, so around the time that I was doing the Turkish Get Up one, I was also looking at other things, and this clean and press one was part of it. And I had a dabble at it, again, flirting with the idea, and realised that it was actually harder than the Turkish Get Up one. It was like by far harder. Whether I just wasn't conditioned to it, and I was more conditioned to the Turkish Get Up one, I don't know. But it was beyond what I thought I'd be able to do.
Just to tap on that one, double tap on that one. How do you actually test those things out? So if you see a world record, do you just go out with the full weight, or do you do a calculation first, then see if you can do like a percentage of it? How what's that process like?
Yeah, so I because it is literally just having a quick go to see where you are. I don't put any kind of plan together, like, right, in 2 weeks' time I'm going to do this, so I need to build up my strength and stuff like that. I feel like I'm always, I try and, when someone says, what's your goal, apart from obviously something as specific as this, like, what are you doing now? It's like, I just want to always be ready. And that's like, always be ready to jump on a gym competition, or always be ready to lift a piano for a mate moving into his house. Or do you know what I mean? Whatever life could be, whatever life throws at you. So I kind of just think, well, I'll just calculate what I would need to do. So think, with the Turkish Get Up, I think it was a 28 kilo kettlebell I was using. I think it was something like 4 reps every 1 minute, 10 seconds or something like that. So that's what you do. You just have a go and see. And if you gas out, then you gas out, and you've just got an indication of where you're at. And then as you get a little bit more serious and focused on it, obviously you start kind of working out how you want to build that strength. And you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you might want to throw some lunges in, because there's kind of a lunge section in a Turkish Get Up, for example.
You started looking at the most amount lifted and that record. Had you looked at any other records? I've always wondered.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at the most burpees in an hour, or the most press ups in 24 hours and stuff like that. To be honest, I like the idea of the 12 and 24 hour ones. I like the idea of them, but I think we've talked about this before. Like, we are really sensitive to sleep. So if we have if I don't get my 7, I mean, to be honest, I'm pretty disappointed if I get only 7 hours sleep. I can feel it if I don't. So like I proper just think about the 24-hour thing. It'd probably just be too much on my system, you know, like it ruined me for days and weeks afterwards probably. So I prefer to kind of have something that I can just kill myself in an hour. An hour feels nice. It's like a gym session's worth.
What was the first time that you actually felt like you could potentially achieve that record? So when you started training for the kettlebell clean and press,
yeah.
What timeline are we on here? Whereabouts are we at?
So if we go back to May 2023, like you said, when we had the podcast last, I think I mentioned in the podcast that this was something I was interested in. May 23. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back a little bit further to probably around like March or April 2023. I just joined Siemens Energy where I work now, and I went on a like kind of training course with a load of people in the room. Didn't know many people, and one of the things that was asked as a bit of an icebreaker was, has anyone got anything interesting they can say about themselves? One interesting fact. So now I can say my fact is that I have a Guinness World Record, which I can't wait for the next training session where that's the question. But yeah, at the time I just said I am training for a world record, and I'd named it and told people for the first time, and it kind of became real. And I trained hard for it around that period, and I continued to train up until we had that podcast. Soon after that, I realised I wasn't going to be able to do it. It was just too much, too hard, far harder than the Turkish Get Up one. And I think I maybe revisited it again, maybe 6 months later, like, you know, I'm a bit stronger, a bit fitter now, you know, maybe a bit high rocks has, you know, helped me get my, like, you know, my cardio base up and all that kind of stuff. Again, no, just literally not going to be achievable. I'm just not fit enough. I'm just not strong enough, don't have the genes, whatever, you know, maybe don't have the mentality, I don't know.
Were you trying this with like a 28 or a 24, do you remember?
I think for a long time I did it with a 24, and when I first did it last May, it was with a 24, so that's what I kind of accustomed myself to train with. But when I actually did it this time, as you're aware, I went down to a 20, which meant more reps.
Yeah.
But don't know, for whatever reason, it just tuned nicely with my body. We now come up to the point of January last year when my mum died, and at the time, even leading up to it, I was training really, really hard for high rocks. I had a high rocks with a doubles with obviously a partner, and me and him had been training hard separately, but hard for it, and we were pretty certain that we could get a good time and things, doing loads of running. So fitness was right up, and that training definitely helped me even during the period that my mum was very, very poorly, you know, and spending a lot of time with her and stuff. It was an escape, you know. And then when my mum died, I mean, literally within a couple of days, I just thought we can, you know, maybe get onto the bit about my mum and St Mary's Hospice and stuff. But basically, what St Mary's Hospice and all the healthcare around her did, but particularly St Mary's Hospice, was unbelievable. And I thought, I want to do something really special for them. Like raise as much money as possible, but I didn't want it to be like, you know, no disrespect to people who do the Keswick to Barrow, I don't want to do the Keswick to Barrow because I can't be bothered with a 40-mile walk. But I didn't want to just do something like that. I'm raising money for this and only raising, you know, 500 quid or something, or, you know, I've done some other little daft stuff like a tyre pull down the canal and things like that. Again, it's like, it's just like a gym session, you know what I mean? Nothing too impressive, so that people could be like, wow, I will really give you some money here and I'll share, and it's amazing what you're trying to do. Anyway, so I thought, well, and it had to also mean something for me. So like, I didn't want to do something that I could like pretend was a hard thing, like a tyre pull down the canal, but actually I'm like pretty good at it. I wanted to do something that from an integrity perspective, I could be like, this is gonna be the biggest challenge I've ever faced, and like I've failed even not even failed an attempt at it. I've failed to even train for it. So it's like I'm just gonna throw everything into it, and I did, and that's why I decided to actually do it.
It's interesting hearing you talk about the tire pull, saying that it's not impressive, and I wonder it's like that set point now because you've done this achievement. I remember at the time, because I come down to watch it, and like that was some graft.
Oh yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, so that shouldn't be brushed over as like, I pulled a tractor tire down the canal, and it was like it wasn't much of a thing, because like most people will look at it and go, actually, that's impressive.
Yeah. So sometimes, probably most weeks, I have a training session or two that's as hard as what I did on that day. Like, I train really intensely. I mean, it's hard. I assume I do.
Yeah.
But other people might be knocking the pans out just as much as me. But I go to some really minging places just by myself in the home gym.
Yeah.
And so the tire pull, I'm going to be totally honest. As I was pulling the tire, and there was like quite a little crowd like walking behind me, and it was nice. My kids were there and stuff like that. There was a bit of me that was like, this is pretty boring for them. Just me facing them going. So.
Yeah, not even breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. One of the things I thought, just when you were talking about after your mum passed away, and you were wanting to do something for St. Mary's Hospice, and I don't know whether I've connected these dots before, and then I was like, hang on a minute, not my mum, but both my nana and my granddad passed away and very close, like a couple of years within each other, and had a similar experience through the hospice, certainly for my nana. And I don't know if you remember, but that's why I started doing the cold dip thing.
Yes, yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, so when I did the was it 90? Was it 3 minutes for 3 months?
That's right,
every day, getting in my bin or whatever.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
Like, and obviously that was like a few years before. And on the last one, we were talking about cold water and stuff. And it's just funny how these things like all seem to interweave in a weird way, and how you can. So although it's very different, you losing your mother and me losing grandparents, it's interesting, that drive.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like where you kind of, you're wanting to do some good, channeling that energy, and then obviously, and you're doing something for yourself as well. It's like giving you something. So what do you think the idea of the world record did for you in that moment, in the couple of days after your mum passed away?
To decide to do something like that, you mean? That's a good question. Probably. I mean, my mum died 2 days before I was supposed to do the High Rocks. In the week,
it was High Rocks Manchester, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was meant to be High Rocks Manchester, and unbelievably, like, I don't know why, your head's all over the place in them situations, and I was still thinking about going to do High Rocks. I was still like, I'd tapered that week. I wasn't anywhere near in the right mental state to do it. I didn't know how. I mean, I was incredibly devastated, but you don't know how all of a sudden you might just burst into tears or something. So do I want to be in the middle of a High Rocks and be like, what am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? So I did can it in the end. But yeah, all that effort, I was like, right, I'm ready to do something like that. It needs to be done for me. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't like all like, I'm such a nice guy, I'm going to do this absolutely horrendous journey just for St. Mary's. There's a lot of it that is for me, a distraction. a focus.
It's like therapy, isn't it?
It is therapy. Like it is. And I was thinking in a session the other day, it was one of my pretty minging sessions, and I'm now in a spot where I'm in hell in a session, and I'm now like totally embracing it, and I'm like, this is actually my comfort zone. Like I'm very, very comfortable being extremely uncomfortable. And it's probably a good place to be because it means that you can stretch and grow and, that kind of thing. You can apply that thought to anything then, can't you? Doing presentations at work or whatever it might be. So, yeah, it was a lot of things. It was a distraction, and it was just something really meaningful. And you know that I put together these like street meets and things like that. Yeah, so like get people round. I love the kids getting in the gym and all this kind of stuff with me. So there was a definite community aspect there as well, bringing people together. And on that first attempt, that's what it was all about. There was like 90, I think about 90 people in the gym, and it was a great day.
Yeah. Well, they say it's. I feel like, I'm gonna bring it back to your mum, but I feel like when someone passes away close to you, they're kind of like two options, aren't there? Maybe three options, but there's like you can be completely, it can destroy you.
Yeah.
You can be indifferent to it, and then on the other end, you can utilize that pain to channel it into something else. And it might sound awful, but like make something out of a bad situation, turn that into something else. And we'd see it we'll look at art, look at music. It's very rare that a good artist has no pain in their life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely like, my favorite artist is Tom York from Radiohead, and it's like, if he wasn't like socially
messed up,
socially anxious person,
yeah,
like extremely quirky, then I wouldn't be in love with Radiohead, because he wouldn't have created what he's created. So yeah.
And I think we're tapping into this kind of like, maybe it's like this selfishness aspect of it, but also you got to remember, like, your mum would be so proud. Do you know what I mean? For her to, and whatever you believe, maybe she's looking down or whatever, and she will be so proud because it is fucking ridiculous. Like I said to you the other day, I think I commented on Facebook, you literally have a certificate that says you're a legend.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like that. My mum, when she used to like come round and I was like having a workout, like might be pulling this tractor tire on my front street or something, she'd like literally get a camera out and start filming me because she was like amazed that I was doing it, And I think she like ended up sending it to like a sister and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, like I knew even little things like that made her proud, and she was really proud of me and Phil, how we sort of turned out and stuff. And yeah, like that first attempt was totally like for her, just really wanted to like, yeah. And I do believe that, she's somehow aware of what's going on, and to think that she'd be watching that being like unbelievably proud to like see her son put himself out, like, like into that position. And especially for her, she wasn't like incredible extrovert and ego or anything like that.
There's some element to this where you talk about putting yourself through hell, and it almost feels like a sacrificial kind of like way of showing love.
Yeah.
To you, like to your mum, And it makes me think about the conversation that we had a couple of weeks prior to the first attempt.
Yeah.
And you were coming to realize that, I think, from my perspective, I felt like because the attempt had almost been like a way to kind of avoid some of those feelings and put that energy into it. And then, talk to us about how you were feeling like those a couple of weeks out and what we went into that day.
From the first attempt.
Yeah.
So the first attempt was the failed attempt, although I don't look at it that way anymore, but that's fine. We can chat about that. How was I feeling? Probably psychologically in a extremely difficult place. Yeah. So back in it was May that I attempted it. I think it was about March. I did a practice run and achieved the world record in practice in my gym by myself. So I achieved it, and so in my head I was like, oh my God, I've done it 2 months out. I can not just rest up, but maybe even like, increase my work rate and maybe even do even better. So yeah, really positive then. And then coming closer to it, started having doubts, really, and for like unfounded doubts, really. And it could just be like, I had a session where I was a bit tired and never did as well as like I was hoping to or something. But particularly a few days out, I started getting a bad chest, like a tight chest, and like, but a lot of like clearing my throat and things like that. And I was in my head, I'm devastated because I'm like, I've gone this long not being ill, and I've got like 1 week to go, and this has happened. And it was so hard to work out whether it was anxiety or whether I was genuinely ill. Now, I now believe that I was genuinely ill, but that increased the anxiety as well. So everything tightens up even more. Like, analyze so closely how you're breathing all the time, thinking if my lung capacity isn't what it was when I did broke it back in March in training, then I'm not gonna be able to be there. And yeah, it was really strange to be in a negative mindset when it's something you've got to be super positive for. And that chat that me and you had in the bakehouse, I think it was about a week or two out. It really, really helped me because you kind of said, "Where's your evidence for this negativity? Go on, tell us what." And I was like, "Well, I don't know really." But yeah, like I say, I think the last week just built up on me.
I think it was a pressure thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting one because the conversation we kind of had was, I basically hypothesized that you were putting too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
And that if you didn't achieve the world record, that would mean somehow that you didn't love your mum as much as...
Yeah, I definitely had something like that in my head. I remember you saying that, and you said to me, does that sound reasonable to you?
Do you realise how ridiculous that sounds?
And I was like, oh my God, you're right. That sounds absolutely ludicrous. But yeah, I think I'd piled pressure on because I wanted to, like, my goal, I wanted to get the world record, obviously, but my primary goal was just to do this mega thing and raise as much money as I could. And I raised 12.5 grand, as you know.
Which is ridiculous in itself. Yeah. Like, even without the record, like 12.5 grand.
Yeah, but to do that, I had to bring myself back onto Facebook because I needed to promote it. I did like a Facebook live video of me doing like a ski erg for 2,000 meter ski erg, see if I could get under 7 minutes and things like that. I was telling everyone at work, I was just doing everything to try and get as much money in for St Mary's Hospice as I could. And part of that was making like an event, and on the day you can come along and see a world record attempt and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, there was multiple factors that worked against me on the day. The anxiety, that's a me problem. That's not like an external thing. It was hot. So back in March when I did it in the gym, it was really cold, and so like, you know, your hands don't go as sweaty. And overall you don't overheat. It was a hot day, like a unusually hot day.
I remember because if you remember, I was looking at my heart rate because I'd done a session in the gym in the morning,
and
I was sending you afterwards the data of like the difference, and like I'm sure that made a difference because like it gets so hot in that building, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then the pressure of people being there, and for the first time ever, I had to do 60 minutes. So when I broke the world record in my gym in training, and when I'd done some other really good sessions, getting close to 45, 50 minutes at world record pace and stuff, I never set out to do an hour. I set out to do 20 minutes and see how I got to. And then I'd get to, and I'd be like, oh, I'll do another couple of sets. Oh, well, I'm nearly at 25 minutes. I'll get to 25. I'll do one more set on each arm. I'm nearly at 30 minutes. Oh, wow. Right. But, and then you think about the hour and you're like, how do I feel now? Could I get to an hour? And you're like, no chance. But it's fine. We've done half an hour. And then you get to like 40 minutes and 45 minutes. I'm 3/4 of the way through. And then just like literally just smash it to the end. And you've gone through the hour, but you've just kidded yourself right throughout that that it's okay to stop any second. So there's no pressure and there's no like, oh my God, that journey is miles ahead of me still at 15 minutes. I've still got another 3 of these to do, you know. But on the day, you pick up that kettlebell and you know you have to do 1 hour because that is the world record attempt that you've promised everyone you're going to attempt. And yeah, and then, as we know, hell ensued. Hot torture, absolute torture.
It's an interesting, because I don't know if we talked about it much, but that like you're like chunking down, aren't you? Like when you say you're going to go into a session and do 20 minutes, and then kid yourself.
Yeah.
It's an interesting tactic to think about, you know, if someone was going to do something like that. And I thought about a few months ago, and I did like a every 4 minutes like circuit or something, and it was one of those days when I couldn't be asked.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just do 20 minutes, or I think it was 15 minutes or whatever, and then I ended up doing the longest version I've ever done of it, and totally surpassing. And it's just what you're saying because you're going, well, I'll do one more.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do one more. Yeah.
You just make little deals with yourself and just you're not even pretending that you're not even pretending to yourself. You're genuinely saying, yeah, I'll stop at 35 minutes. Yeah, that's fine. That's best I've ever done. That'll be a great session. And then just a bit more and a bit more. And then by the time you get to 50 minutes, you're like, oh my God, I'll get to like open the door of the garage and be like, kids, I've just got the world record, or like, achieved it unofficially, whatever.
You're spending them dopamine pennies early.
Couldn't wait to spend them dopamine pennies. Yeah.
It's like, if anyone's listening, and I'm assuming people listening will have a bit of an idea around training and stuff, and I should mention, I'll have to link up, well, you can Google Turkish Get Up, or we'll put a link to some of the videos and stuff anyways.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think a lot of people think about doing these endeavors, whether it's breaking world records, whether it's a high rocks, and the think about, it's like everything's got to be like really intense. And when we look at like heart rate, and we're talking about your heart rate after the failed attempt, and I think it would surprise a lot of people if they don't have a training background that actually you want your heart rate to be low and you want to be relaxed.
Oh yeah.
And that's such a big part of it. And the reason why I'm tapping into this now is because if you're doing those like chunk down sessions, your anxiety is just going to be so much lower because it's just like, well, I can do another set.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking, oh my God, I've got to do 60 minutes and look at all these people here, like, I think in the end, was it like a whole heart rate zone?
Started off, felt fine. And I got about 10 minutes in and I thought, this is really hard. And I thought, I never felt like this at like 20 minutes in training. So I was like, this is hard, but I was like, but I've been here before. I know I can get further. And I remember at 15 minutes, I was absolutely ruined. My heart, I could feel how intensely I had to work. And I think I managed to get to about 18 minutes. And I thought to myself, I am not getting to an hour. I was like, this is horrendous self-talk, but I know I'm not getting to an hour. It's not going to happen. So all these people here, and I've promised them a world record attempt, and I feel horrendous, like exhausted. And I knew why. And I knew should have cancelled it. I shouldn't have done it. I should have postponed it because my chest was tight and all these things. Should have checked the weather forecast. I'm going to do it in winter. You know, all these things. And but I'm used to the grind of going back to the kettlebell and going back to the kettlebell. And I said to myself, just get to half an hour. If I can get to half an hour, then I can, you know, people have seen half an hour of world record pace and they can be like, oh, it just wasn't your day, unlucky, mate. And then I could say, but I've done it in training, you know, and I don't know. And I got to half an hour. I have no idea how I got through it. I honestly don't know how I did it. My heart rate was in zone 5 for 55 of the 60 minutes. Zone 5, as you know, is like basically deemed a sprint. So I basically sprinted heart rate wise for 50 minutes.
It's a good way to explain it.
Yeah. And I didn't believe I could get to the hour until 56 minutes. 56 minutes was the first time in that whole thing, apart from maybe the first 5 minutes, where I was like, I might actually get to 60 minutes here because every set was hell. And I've had people since talk to me, including Daniel, the judge, Daniel Vintilla, who was the judge. And he kind of said, oh, if we did it differently, like tracked it a bit closer, we'd have been able to get a few more reps out of you because we could tell you if you were on track or not.
What do you mean by that?
We
in terms
would
of
have
the way
been able to tell you you're 10 reps away or something. So Andy do one more rep each set for the last 10 sets. So that kind of idea.
Which is what
we ended up doing this time round. Yeah. But there is nobody in this world who can tell me that I had one more rep in me. It was absolutely the most grueling thing I've ever done. I can't imagine someone going through worse like effort than that.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that someone could get themselves there. I will never be able to go there again in my life. It won't happen. I could say to myself, I'm going to have a horrendous hour. I'm going to do everything to keep my heart rate as high. Not possible. It's never happening again. It's the circumstances of that day, the heat, the fact I was ill, the fact I was anxious, the pressure I'd put on myself, and the fact that there was a crowd there. So the crowd was a proper iron lung for me. It was like pressure and like making things hard for me. But I was incredibly grateful they were there, of course.
Yeah.
But they also made me get to the end because I was like, can't quit. I can't quit. They've come here. My boss at the time had come from the Netherlands. Yeah, granted, he came over for work, but he decided to stay the weekend with his wife so he could come and watch the event. So even though I've got this now, I've got this thing at home with a T-shirt with the t-shirt I wore and a few photos, and one of the photos, or an image, should I say, is my heart rate. It's the heart rate from the first attempt, and that is a reminder to me of just how hard I am capable of working. So if I'm ever in a session or finding something hard, I know in myself I can always keep going. It's a mad thing.
Yeah.
But like I say, I won't ever have to do that again. And I knew even getting this certificate second time round, I wouldn't have to work as hard as this because I wouldn't be ill. I'd be doing it in winter. I'd do it without a crowd. I'd basically make sure the variables were in my favour this time, you know.
I feel like there's no parallel fucking universe where you get that record and you don't do the first attempt.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's so much in that.
Yeah.
Where because you had to go to that level and so much pain and, like you say, your heart rate. So the second time was always going to be easier.
Yeah.
And like even, I mean, at the time, I was confident you were. I did say I was confident you were going to do it the first time around. But to be honest, I'd not seen you do much of it, so it was more like a confidence in you, rather than actually no, I've seen. Whereas the second time round was a different form of confidence. I'm like, you've done it, like you've pretty much done it. Like you've gone through all that stressful thing, with all that pressure. Now all we need to do is just dial back all that, keep it real simple, and. I said to you like a couple of days, I was like, I'm bullish on Andy Allan. And I didn't. Did you think you were ever going to miss it on the
second attempt?
Second attempt. I'm just skipping ahead a little bit.
But to answer it generally, no, I didn't. However, there was one moment in it that I struggled. But from when I failed first time, and then I in my head decided I would definitely still do it. There wasn't a point where I thought I wouldn't be able to do it. Confidence was super high, and you probably saw me rock up at the second attempt, and I was happy. I was happy, and I never really felt any pressure, and just approached it totally differently with various learnings. So yeah, from the first attempt, at the time it was a failure. You know, it felt like a failure. I wasn't devastated though because of everything else that I'd done, the community, my kids seeing the effort and the 12,500, and my mum definitely being proud regardless of it. But yeah, it wasn't a failure. It was a learning because I was willing to. If I decided, I've done it, that's it, that's fine, I'm not going to go back to it. Basically be a failure in my mind. But I used it as a learning, so I only learned, basically. I never failed, I learned.
Yeah, 100%. And, imagine if we were sat here now and we didn't have the first attempt to talk about.
Yeah.
It'd be a totally different story. Yeah. And it still would be amazing. But that's, everyone wants, like, the hero's journey isn't like that.
No.
Like, the hero's journey is like that, and that's like all stories are built that way.
Coming of age.
Yeah.
It was interesting because one of my Shane's fiance now, Katie.
Shane Toll,
of Barrow Raiders fame. She said to me after my attempt, she was like, I thought you'd do it because I just thought, I just assumed it was going to be quite an easy attempt to go for because I'd chosen to do it. I'd chosen that record, so it's going to be an easy thing to go for. And she was like, so I didn't realize just how hard it was going to be, and I was kind of like, yeah, it was incredibly hard, but it kind of at the same time, in terms of the eyes of people looking in. The fact I failed first time shows just how frigging hard it was to achieve, because I never achieved it until lots of learnings and further effort was put in place,
Just let's get into the detail on the first attempt. How shy were you, and what did you did you know that you'd not done it, or did you? Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I knew I'd fallen short because I dropped from the 24 to the 20 kilo kettlebell too early. When I did it at home, I'll refer back to when I did it the 60 minutes at home, I didn't drop down to the 20 until maybe minute 50. I think on this one I dropped at like in the 30s, late 30s or something like that. And I knew I was short. I didn't need you guys to tell me that I was short. I knew that I'd fallen short. It was 8 reps, which is about 23 seconds worth of work. And yeah, I mean, take one of those variables out, the hot day or the bit of a tight chest or whichever variable you want to take out, I'd have probably got there, on the day. Yeah.
It's interesting, we talk about heart rate a lot and stuff, and how paradoxically, if you look at effort, and if you took heart rate as an example as a proxy for effort, then it's mad to think that actually the failed attempt was harder.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like this weird, contradiction.
Yeah.
Of how the laws of these types of things and exercise and stuff like that.
You just need to be comfortable, don't you? You need to be comfortable with the kettlebell in your hands. You need to hone your technique. I learned about my technique better because my hands were ripped to shreds first time. They weren't quite as bad second time.
So the first attempt, you fail that.
Cheers.
Inverted commas. You fail the record, but you do this amazing thing with the hospice. And actually, I remember, it was a good day. I thought it was a good crack. And when I do these yearly reviews, and I looked back and I like looking through photographs, and that was one of the highlights of my year because, like you say, it was this community thing. It brought people together. It's like, you almost don't care why you're brought together sometimes. Yeah. It's just the fact that you were brought together and part of something. But tell me, what was it like those hours, days after the failed attempt?
If I'm being totally honest, I can't really remember them too much. The dopamine spike was there, but probably not quite as much because there wasn't quite as much to shout about as if I actually got the record. You know what I mean? So I think it was just I guess I just wanted to get back on the horse and just keep my training up. My fitness is since it was just over a month ago that I actually broke the world record, and my training has probably in some ways improved further. I'm kind of doing different stuff now, so that's good. But I never want. There's no point in now just dropping off my training. I might as well maintain a level of really high fitness and strength. You know what I mean? So that was my mentality back then. I was like, if I am gonna break this world record, I don't want to have a month out and go on holiday, eat crap, feel like crap. I was like, I just want to. I might do it in 2 months' time. You know what I mean? I might be back soon. I kind of knew I wouldn't be because I had in my head I definitely wanted to do it in colder months. Just for that extra sort of variable advantage.
Yeah. And so you basically, you kind of went into a bit of a monk mode in a way, didn't you? You just, because I remember you saying that you didn't really want to talk too much about the thing.
Mm.
You were saying I might do it, but you were kind of coy. I think you, like you say, you just wanted to get back to training and almost kid yourself. I wonder if you were kidding yourself that
possibly.
You weren't going to attempt it.
Yeah, possibly.
But knowing that you probably are, you were.
Yeah.
I feel like it was maybe, I think afterwards, I'm sure you said maybe you weren't going to do it. And then I think it was a week or so after, you maybe picked it back up and said.
I think I would always want to have gone after it. I think the thing that actually was a bit of a catalyst for me was I was so close and still had in my head to actually own this. Like, even if someone breaks that record the day after I broke it or the day after I get the certificate, I don't care. Like, that is incredible to have in my gym. And you know what I mean? And that is forever. So I thought, I'm that close to getting it. I can't let it go now. And then the other thing is, there's a guy called Del Wilson on Facebook who is a strongly affiliated with kettlebell competitions and things. I'm not sure exactly sort of the details on it too much, but he contacted me after it, and he'd seen some of the videos and stuff, and he was kind of like, "How are you holding the kettlebell?" And I gave him bits of like, "Well, I'm kind of is because the cuts on your hand were like on the palm," and he's like, "You should never have cuts on your palm because the kettlebell should jump from sort of your sort of thumb grip position, jump across your palm into a hook position with your sort of fingers." And I guess I used to know that, and I used to do that. Matty did teach me that, but it's been years since I had a session with Matty on kettlebells.
Matty Green,
sorry. But that alone, when he said that, it was like massive advantages to be had if you can work on that. So I knew that there was a period where my hands were knackered, and physically I was pretty knackered, mentally I was pretty knackered, but there was an opportunity there to, for the first time, dial back the heavy weight, the 24 kilo kettlebell, and start like working with like a 12 kilo kettlebell on technique. And then I soon found, it feels good. Yeah, I can tell why that would be better. So I instantly found some benefit. So within a week or so, there was advantages to be had. And I was like, yeah, I can definitely do that next time,
Yeah, that's cool. And again, going back to this, like, no failure thing, it's like he wouldn't have probably got in touch either had you not done the first attempt, because there was so much noise that had gone around the thing. Welcome back. We just had a little refresher. What did I want to tap into the lessons that you learned from that first attempt, and how did that shape your approach going into the second attempt?
Yeah. So I've mentioned I knew I wanted to do it in colder months. I had learned a lot about kettlebell technique. One of the other things was Daniel actually contacted me. No, sorry, I think I contacted Daniel, who was one of the judges. We've got a WhatsApp group, haven't we, about just getting the organisation of it going. And I sort of said to Daniel, "Are you available maybe after Christmas?" And he basically said, "Whenever you need me, I'm available, definitely." He said, "But to be honest, I've been meaning to want to catch up with you." And so we actually went for a coffee, and he had some ideas about how I can improve, my approach basically. And one of the main things that came out of it was he really wanted to make sure that for him, as someone who's actually judging the attempt and tracking how many reps I've done correctly and maybe incorrectly, although all were correct, putting a spreadsheet together. I bloody love a spreadsheet.
Don't I both?
And the and to track so that throughout the attempt, I knew, he knew, and anybody else in the room knew where I was. Was I ahead? Was I behind? How many by? How many reps would I have to increase or whatever? How many can I drop? To get to the target, at least achieving the target. So that was one thing. So that was great. But the second thing, and this was probably the one biggest learning that I had, he competes in strongman competitions, and he basically said, when you go into an event, treat it like a training session. So that means don't do anything differently. Don't fuel yourself differently. Don't take knockos or something if you've never done it, Don't want to crap yourself on a world record attempt. And yeah, he was like, just treat it the same. So warm up the same amount that you do with the same exercises, and then just get on with it. And that,
What did you? Sorry, because if that's a lesson, going back to the first attempt, was there anything on that day that you did differently?
oh yeah, definitely.
Was it? All right.
Yeah, I mean, I
Other than working out in front of a crowd of like 100 people.
working out in front of a crowd of 100 people, considering I work out in a little garage by myself, and so that was obviously massively different. But like, so I decided to do like some Wim Hof breathing, and I hadn't done that in months.
You did that on the first attempt.
First attempt,
Right.
I went into the bathroom and just laid on the floor and did like 5 minutes, and I was just like,
I didn't know you did that. Right?
yeah. I just thought, oh well, it worked for me once before, but if I haven't done it for months and I haven't trained like that, then that was probably maybe not the best, like just a bit rushed and stuff, you know. What else? I think leading up to it, I put too many things in place, like, you know, got to make sure my sleep's perfect and blah blah blah. And I just kind of, for the second attempt, I took that on board from Daniel. It was such an important lesson. Yeah, like I can absolutely smash a training session, and I'm gonna. So that's what I want to do on the day. Just treat it like I'm going into a training session, but I'm trying to get a PB this time. You know, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And that can apply to, and that will apply to everything now. That'll apply to every future event or challenge that I do, high rocks, whatever it might be. Just treat myself totally normal, as if I've just, like, you know, come home from work, just going in the gym, and then off I go for an hour. And to be honest, I do warm up before every gym session, but only like 5 minutes now. I used to do like 20 minutes or something. I feel there's better advantages to be made by that extra 15 minutes, putting it into actual proper effort rather than just like warming up my muscles and stuff. But yeah, I just, second attempt, rocked up at the gym, helped you guys just sort of get a few last bits set up and stuff, and just had a really quick warm up. And I was like, getting on with the kettlebell will be my warm up, my proper warm up. You know, the first set, that I'll use that as my real warm up. You know what I mean? Just so I was more relaxed and not just overthinking everything. So yeah, that was a major lesson to approach it that way.
Yeah. So, okay, so you talk to Daniel, he gives you some of these pointers, and you start to think about this as you're leading up to the event. Let's talk about the day now. Let's go on World Record Day.
Yeah.
You wake up, what's on your mind? How does that morning go? Talk us through it.
It was a Friday. I usually work from home in the morning on a Friday. I took the day off. I checked the weather, and it was going to be a nice cool day. So box number 1 ticked. And then me and Katie, my wife, went up to Coniston. Sorry, we went to the bakehouse first and just had a coffee, and then just said, should we just go to Coniston? Parked up, went for a nice little walk, just chatted, and, you know, she starting up a sort of business herself. Talked all about that. Yeah, she actually said to me afterwards, she was like, sorry, we've just talked about me there, and you've got this world record thing this afternoon. And I'm like,
perfect prep.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, you've just, you know, it was a brilliant morning, to be honest. And then, but it was absolutely brilliant to come back, have my lunch, just everything was ready, fueled up right. Katie went and did some of her work. Kids were at school, so I just went in the living room and got my iPad out and my DJ software, and I decided, I decided I was going to do this anyway, but I made a mix. I'd been working on a DJ mix for a couple of weeks, basically. I'll end up like trying some mixes, writing some notes down, and then actually putting it together at some point and recording it, and then putting it on Mixcloud, and then listening to it in the gym or whatever. It's basically just like I'm able to mix my favorite songs, my favorite like dance house songs. And anyway, so I did that. I just made it. Took about 2 hours to sort of do it. Ate up all my time. Wasn't thinking about the world record at all. put these like built-in tunes all together with what I perceive as like a really nice smooth mix. And I was like, I'm going to use that this afternoon. So like, I decided to not listen to music initially on the world record attempt, but I knew that if I wanted to do that, then
You've got that up your sleeve.
I've got that on my sleeve.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. I put my headphones in and I was listening to this mix that I'd made only like a couple of hours ago. And it kind of, in a way, like it kind of distracted me a little bit as well, because not only was it, as I say, some decent tunes, but I'm also like, during the mixes, the crossovers of the song, I'm kind of critiquing it in my head a little bit. I'm like, oh, that was a good mix. You know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe the bass was a bit heavy on there. And it was just like awesome to listen to. And I called it World Record Mix. It's on Mixcloud, and I still listen to it now. And like when it gets to a remix of Hey Boy, Hey Girl by Chemical Brothers, I remember during the World Record that I turned it full volume to 11. and that got me through the last probably somewhere between like 45 to 50 minutes, and then I think I took them out at like 50 odd minutes because I wanted to, at that point it wasn't a weird quiet atmosphere. Like you have to have it for a world record attempt. You can't have music on like loud, they've got to hear everything. So to be fair to you guys, just listening to me panting for 55 minutes until you can actually be like, yeah, come on, Andy, you know. So it occupied me, and so that prep was brilliant. Just never really thought about the whole thing at all. However, there was a little bit of something different that I did. I had a double shot of caffeine that I didn't necessarily want. I actually said to the person on the speaker, has this got one shot in? And she's like, no, two. I was like, oh, that'll be fine. So a little bit more caffeine than I was used to. And the other thing is, I've got these cyst gels, and I've used them before, for like high rocks or if I'm having a really intense long session, and I brought that along as well. And the whole record for the whole attempt, I felt really good. I knew that I'd do it. And it was I think it was 33 minutes, because I was doing it in 3-minute chunks. I think it was 40 reps with a 20 kilogram every, 41, 42 reps at times, just to try and get ahead of it. At 33 minutes, I felt like absolute crap. I mean, seriously bad. Like weak, and I felt sick and dizzy and lightheaded. And I don't know what it was. At the time, I thought I'd hit the wall. I thought I'd hit the wall. And as far as I'm aware, from reports from other people, the wall, when you hit it, you don't come back. That's it. You're screwed. Yeah. And I honestly, for that set, I just thought, I'm just going to have to get through it. Just get through this set. I've kind of been here before. Just get through this one set. Put the kettlebell down. You might have noticed, or if you were to look back at it, you'd probably notice that I kind of put my head outside and like spat a few times, because you know when you feel sick, you like spit a bit. I spat a few times outside, bit gross. And I think what happened was maybe the caffeine and the gel, which is not something I typically use in training. So sorry, Daniel,
so
for not listening. So I changed something.
Was the caffeine in the gel, by the way?
There might have been. I'm not too sure. But whatever it was, I think that my blood sugar just went mental for a very short period of time. And I came back to the kettlebell on minute 36, picked it up, got through that set like feeling better. And then by the 39th minute, I think you were on the floor taking some photos of me, and I actually put my thumb up because I was feeling really good again. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, thank God that wasn't the wall. Thank God that was just a blip. But yeah, it was a very, very worrying moment. I was like, can I ask these guys if we can do a third attempt? I really don't want to do that,
Yeah. Well, I feel like it wouldn't be, it wouldn't have been a world record if you didn't have some minging struggle in the middle of it.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
What about, so we're on the the world record. You're going through it. You've gone through this difficult 7 minutes or so with your little caffeine sugar thing that happened.
Yeah.
Once you got to 40, were you just back in? You just knew it was going to happen? Because there was a little bit where you went slightly shy of a few of the reps, but I didn't know if that was part of the strategy because you'd built up so many reps in advance.
Yeah, it was strategic. It was kind of like when you have a rep or two short, it feels so good. Like the rest, like it's I don't know what is it. It must be like 8 more seconds of rest or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it feels mega. Like even if it's just psychological.
With it, were you averaging? Was it 40 seconds rest? Or was it less?
Yeah. So basically, at the cadence I was going, it was a 20 kilo kettlebell. It was 40 reps every 3 minutes, which meant that it roughly worked out at 2 minutes 20 of work and 40 seconds of rest.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just worked out between the first attempt and the second attempt, I just worked out I'll drop down and just see what it's like over 20. And that felt nice. It just feels like 40 reps, you know what I mean? Like you do whatever, 12 on one arm, 12 on the other. Next time it's 8 on one arm, 8 on the other, and then put the kettlebell down.
Yeah.
Just it seems to work well with my played to my strengths, whatever those are, you know.
Yeah. Do you think other than thinking about your mix, like were you quite mindful, were you quite present with that attempt versus being in your head? Like where was your head at for most of it?
Well, the reason I started without music is because I work out a lot without music in the gym. And I didn't want to use up all my dopamine points by smashing Chemical Brothers in my head in the first 10 minutes and then being like, oh no, what I've got now left. So I decided, I wanted to feel it. As I say, I'm very comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I wanted to feel that discomfort because I don't know, it's weird. It's just a weird thing. It's like,
what's
it's a mindfulness thing, isn't it? Like I think you once said to me, I don't know if it was on the podcast last time or just when we've had a chat. When you are in that position, you are incredibly present, and you live in. You are absolutely living. I mean, it's
like a way to extend your life because time slows down.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you ever want to be really present, just do like a minging workout or go do a 5K.
Exactly.
You'll be very present for those 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're always talking about reframes, aren't we? Like mental tricks. What can we do to like be able to extend our way of just being able to sit in that minging zone?
Yeah. But I knew that I wanted to get to the music at some point, and I did for like 35 minutes or something. And then I knew that I wanted the last 10 minutes-ish just to be me feeling it, enjoying knowing that I was about to get the world record. Do you know what I mean? And hearing you guys sort of cheer me on, and my wife and a couple of my kids were there and stuff like that. So it's nice to hear, just people around me who've been on the journey with me. Literally, I think there was like maybe 2 people in that room, or that were close to us in that room, because there was a gym session had started elsewhere. But there was, apart from maybe 2 people in that room, everyone had felt the pain from the first time and the failure and the journey, and here we go again. Can he do it? You know. So I wanted to be there with you. I didn't want to be distracted with really loud music. I wanted to enjoy them last moments. And I think I kind of said at the end, like when it was the last set, I think it was, I asked Daniel how many reps I needed to do, and I think he just said 40, which I didn't need to do them to get the world record, but I think he was just like, well, do 40, And that's when I sort of said to you guys, I was like, you guys having fun? Like a bit cheesy, but at the same time, like it was just me kind of maybe giving myself a bit of bravado, like to sort of be like, absolutely, definitely going to do it now, no problem, But yeah.
Was there Like, if you think back now, like those last few minutes, was there like anything that stuck out, like a thing, like something someone said or shouted, or what, like a thought in your head? Was there anything that like was poignant?
Yeah, I think so remind me if I don't say it. There was a phrase my dad said. Okay, but just before I talk about that,
Thought you might say that.
yeah, all right, okay. But just before I say that, this attempt, the second attempt, wasn't framed around my mum. The first attempt was all about my mum and everything that happened around that and the support we got, etc. We've talked about that. This one, it was for me. I wanted this certificate, and I did it without a crowd, as you know, and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to do it for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I have since obviously been like, got it, mum, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But but the thing that stuck out in my head, to answer your question, is my dad said, anyone can do anything for 2 minutes. That's what he shouted. Because before the first attempt, he'd mentioned that to me. He was like, I think he'd seen it on some like cycling documentary or something. And I think it was like, the last 2 minutes in a Tour de France or something. Anyone can do anything for 2 minutes. And it's kind of true. Like, you can just absolutely empty everything for 2 minutes. Feels pretty long, but maybe 1 minute.
Yeah.
But and he said that, and I didn't need that to get over the line, but it was just like, it did stick in my head, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, like, yeah, let's just get this done now. And then then you got 1 minute left, and it just feels so good to be counting down.
I must admit, I don't remember that.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't
What were
remember
you
him
going to
saying
say?
that.
What were you going to say?
There's and maybe it's because it's on the video, but I think I'm filming right at the end, and we're counting down, and we're going, and everyone's shouting, and then your dad like shouts, and he's got a slight wobble in his voice.
Yeah,
it's like this emotional, and he goes, "Go on, son."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like,
Yeah.
it was just really beautiful. But
yeah, to be honest, the best bit was putting the kettlebell down, not collapsing this time, because I didn't need to, and honestly, just hugging Phil, hugging you, hugging my dad, and everyone else. That just felt brilliant, because it was just a moment to give you guys, you've been on the journey a bit with me, and you'd helped me so much, all of you, some more than others, but it was just so good to get that relief, like, oh my god, it's done, it's finally done, and those hugs at the end. I think when I hug Phil, don't know if you can tell from the videos, but basically, like, I hug him, and then my back just kind of flopped, and my legs are like kind of wobbly,
right.
And it's just, it's weird. Yeah, really, really strange. But going back to what I said earlier about there wasn't one more rep to be had in my first attempt, which I absolutely fully believe. I could have done more reps this time round, but it's fine. It's fine. I had to balance it with making sure I didn't exhaust myself too early. So could I have done another 3 or 4 reps? Yeah, definitely. In fact, my last rep was an extra rep, wasn't it? I never got that in time, And if I absolutely had to, probably could have done another couple, another few.
Yeah.
But I don't regret a thing. It was all about getting the job done. Yeah.
Amazing.
Hey guys, it's me. Thank you so much for watching that episode, and congratulations for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. A few things before you get going. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you enjoyed this episode, the kindest thing you can do for me is to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to both my guests and myself. And if you made it this far, why don't you drop me a DM?